Hey guys, it's Shelby. Today I have compiled over 30 of my best tips for zero waste grocery shopping. Really, it should be just called like sustainable or eco-friendly because not all these tips are about waste, but regardless, I'm very excited to get into them. I've been getting a lot of questions recently about groceries, surprisingly, so I've compiled the best ones I have to give to you in a very easy, digestible video today. These are just my best tips, so I would also love to hear yours in the comments. If you have tips for people that could be helpful, I'd love for you to leave them below. And since we're talking about food today, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. We'll talk more about them and the course that I'm taking, which is about knives, trying to build my skills up for cooking. We'll talk about that, like I said, at the end of the video, but if you want to jump ahead, the first 1,000 people to click the link at the top of my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, and after that, it's only about $10 a month for a giant catalog of learning. But without further ado, let's get into the tips. Before I get into this, not everyone is going to have access to all of these things, so take what is useful to you and leave the rest. A lot of people, when I took a poll on my Instagram, in fact, 50-50 people, even amount of people said they did and did not have access to bulk bins. So a lot of these tips have nothing to do with that. But number one is definitely to see if there is a bulk bin near you where you can get package-free foods. The website Litterlist has a great list for every state. I think they do stuff outside the states as well, but if you're looking for what's in your area, it's a great place to start. If you've never bought groceries without packaging before, tip number 2 is to know the tear weight of your container. When you go shopping package free, you obviously have to bring your own container, so knowing how much that weighs so that they can subtract that when you're buying it is very important. Take a photo of the PLU code. This is the code that the cashier is going to use to ring you out. Likely there aren't that many people, if you're at a conventional grocery store, that they have to do this for, knowing the tear weight and the PLU without a sticker. So not making it any more complicated for them and just having those codes ready is definitely important and something to keep in mind. Find a good set of produce bags that you love and work really well for you. I personally use some that are collapsible. I don't like the ones made of organic cotton. The texture freaks me out. So mine are from Chico Bag, but I absolutely love them. It's not important that you use the same thing I use, just to use what works best for you, what you will keep up with, and what you will actually use. I say produce bags, but I use those bags most often at my bulk bins. And this is another great tip. Use bags when you can instead of jars. Taking produce bags to the market to fill up instead of lugging around glass is a lot easier, not as heavy and not as bulky. It's just more convenient. So maybe you can't do that for all ingredients, but for the ones that you can, put it in a bag, put it in a jar when you get home. If you have bulk bins right now, but they won't allow you to bring your own packaging, your own containers, try to find a paper bag somewhere around the store to use. Obviously a better option than plastic. Or you can reuse the plastic bags that they provide. So if you put something in this container, you bring it home and then you bring back those plastic bags and just continually reuse them. Not only is this going to be better for the store in terms of saying you can't bring your own containers, but you also don't have to worry about knowing the tear weight of these bags because it's what the store already has in their system. On that note, don't ask if you can use your own container. Tell them you're going to use your own container. Maybe this isn't a tip for the self-serve bulk bins, but it is things for counters where you can go and get olives, or if you're asking for your coffee in your own cup, whatever. Be confident when you're asking for them to do something. Don't seem unsure. If you are confident and you tell them, I want you to put that in here, they're much more likely to think, oh, they've obviously done this before and this is normal, than to be like, oh, let me go ask someone, I don't know. So definitely try to take that approach as often as possible. And a study I've been citing a lot recently from The Guardian, and how data shows that the virus does not spread through contact surfaces nearly as much as airborne, and that reusables are not a big proponent in transmitting this virus. So I always am armed with that information, and I've been using it as a bargaining chip for a lot of places recently. If you are able to get these items package free at your store, try to reuse the jars that you already have or buy jars secondhand. Don't buy jars new. All of my jars are either reused or secondhand, and if you just take some time, I'm sure you will find them that way too. Eat more plants and less animals. I get so frustrated seeing the comments that say that animal agriculture can be done sustainably. Yes, on a small scale, if we're only worried about sustainability and not ethics, it can be done. It cannot be sustained for the masses. For the way that we are consuming meat right now, we do not have enough land to grow animals in a sustainable way. So swapping out animal-based proteins for plant-based proteins is better for the environment, period. So focus on the perimeter of the grocery store and really pile up on plant-based foods first. Look for local labels at your supermarket. So one of the biggest supermarkets here is H-E-B. I absolutely love them, always talk about them. It is a Texas-owned chain, but not all of the food that they have is local, right? So when I'm choosing between this grapefruit and that grapefruit, if one is grown in Texas, I'm gonna choose that one. Keeping an eye out for those sort of things can have an impact, obviously, on how many greenhouse gases it took to get that item to you, but also the inputs often that it takes to grow that thing. If we're growing stuff that isn't meant to be growing in our area at the time, it takes more resources. So choosing local where you can at the supermarket. If you don't currently go to your farmer's market and you don't know where it is and you're not taking advantage of it, it's definitely a really great resource, not only in terms of environmental emissions or impact, but also in terms of economic impact. Keeping the money that you're spending in your local community is so valuable to the community that you live in, instead of giving money to giant conglomerate brands that kind of send that money all over the world. Also, I kind of said this a little bit when I was saying look for local food in your store, but also looking for in-season food. Most of the times, like I said, it takes a lot less inputs like fertilizer, water, artificial lighting to grow things when they're in season than using all of those things to grow something that was out of season. I definitely eat foods out of season sometimes, but it's more sustainable not to. And also supporting your local CSA, community supported agriculture. Not everywhere has these, but if you do, they're really cool to take advantage of. Basically, the money that you're paying on normally a monthly basis is how they do it, goes to different farmers and you'll receive a box, sometimes every week, sometimes every other week, of foods from local farmers. It's a great solution if you're looking to support your local economy as well as be more sustainable. In line with those food delivery services is Imperfect Foods. I use Imperfect Foods and I absolutely love them. Basically what they do is they rescue food from going to the landfill, because 40% of food in the US is thrown out because of how it looks before it makes it to the grocery store. And Imperfect Foods was part of the solution to that problem. So I absolutely love supporting Imperfect Foods. I have a discount code with them. I think it's $10 that you get and I get. So check that out if you want. They are accessible to a lot of areas now. My parents live in a small suburb about an hour outside of Houston, and they can even get it now. So definitely check it out. But aside from Imperfect Foods, the service, you can also get Imperfect Foods in store. So I've talked a lot about how single bananas end up getting thrown out when they sit on their own. But at the grocery store, looking for the things that you think most people would pass over, but still qualify as perfectly edible food, will possibly save those things from going to the landfill when the people who work there go through and pick out stuff that they think needs to be removed from the shelves at the end of the day. Also, clearance foods. So mostly when I shop in person, I shop at H-E-B. We don't have this. We don't have like a clearance produce section. This would basically be where the people go through and pick at night and they put it on a shelf and give it another chance to be sold. I know a lot of stores do this. The store I shopped at when I was in college did this, and it's cheaper and also better because you're saving it from them throwing it out. Choose materials that are not plastic. This is not across the board. Glass is always better than plastic. Kind of evaluate it on a case-by-case basis. But choosing materials that aren't plastic is one way to be more sustainable, even if you don't have bulk bins. If you do have to choose plastic, choose a plastic that is a lower number. So you'll often see that little recycling sign with a number in the middle. Usually the lower the number, the more chance it is that it can be recycled. Plastic number 1 is typically the most recyclable plastic. So if you can choose that over a plastic number 7, I highly recommend doing that. But like I said, choosing something that's not plastic is not always the best option. For instance, if you're buying spices and you can't get them package free, but you have to choose between like 10 of these smaller glass containers of that spice or one bigger item of spice container, like if you're using something like onion powder and it's something that you go through a lot, I think choosing the container that will fit 10 of these small glass ones is a more sustainable option, especially if you can reuse it. You can also choose bulk. I know a lot of people think that bulk package free, it just magically shows up in those containers, but it doesn't. What they empty out into those bulk bins are bigger bags of the same thing, which is more sustainable than a bunch of little bags. So if you can buy things that your family goes through fast in bulk, things like rice, oats, grains are usually like the best thing to do here. Buy it in a bigger container. Definitely a more sustainable option. Also, being prepared, having a plan or a list will help you stray from that, picking up a bunch of packaged junk food. So go into the grocery store, with a plan, and evaluate if you actually need that thing while you're at the store. So if you're really tempted to go and buy potato chips for whatever reason, kind of stopping and being like, do I really need that? And sometimes the answer is yes. I'm not saying that as an environmentalist we can't eat anything packaged. That would be a lie. But sometimes just stopping and evaluating, like, do I really need this, instead of just impulse buying it, is a helpful thing to do, as well as trying to make it yourself. So I found that since lockdown, I've gotten into making a lot more things myself than I ever did before. Things like plant milks, bread, a lot of people are doing this. I recently made my own soda syrup. So all sorts of different things you can make in your home to avoid packaging. Consider the entire footprint of an item, not just its packaging. There are so many different ways to support sustainable agriculture and to be more sustainable in the choices we're making than just the packaging. For example, if grains come in a package but they are sustainably grown with no-till practices or runoff prevention and all that sort of stuff, much more sustainable option because of the issues with our dead zones. I'll link that video right here. It's a video I made all about this issue. I'd love for you to watch it if you haven't already. Just any brand in general that practices regenerative agriculture and advertises that, I think that's a sustainable choice, even if it comes in plastic. I think that plant-based proteins, even if they're packaged, are a more sustainable option. I buy plant-based proteins that come with a little plastic all the time, and I think it's a sustainable option to support that in the market, as well as things that have sustainability or ethical labels, like being fair trade. I think it's important that we take into consideration the entire footprint of something instead of just packaging, which is kind of what I'm always preaching about on this channel with eco-minimalism and worrying about what happens before that item makes it to you, as opposed to just what happens after you're done with it. Also, make sure your fridge is organized. I did this, I don't know, several months ago now, but I've really kept up with it. But what was most important to me is basically what I keep on each shelf so that I know where it is. Knowing where your food is so that you can eat it before it goes bad is very helpful. So organize your fridge as well as store your food properly. Potatoes in a dark place, berries without a lid. Lettuce, you can wrap it in a little damp cloth, or I bought these like bag things from Earth Hero that I currently use. Will keep them fresher longer, preventing food waste. Also, look for ways that you can reuse your food waste scraps. I do a lot of different things actually on my Instagram. I have a series of reusing food scraps, things like kale stems for salad toppers, juice pulp for spinach dip, all sorts of different ways to reuse food waste scraps and prevent waste there. Growing some of your own food is also a more sustainable choice than purchasing it from a place that had to be shipped God only knows how far. This is waste that's not physical, but that doesn't mean that the greenhouse gas emissions and the inputs it takes to grow that food don't count. So growing your own food is definitely a way to prevent waste that maybe isn't so visible to us, but is still important. One of the most impactful ways that you can prevent waste when we talk about food is to compost. There are so many different ways to do this, and determining which one is going to work best for you is the most important thing, and then just do it. Just stop sending food to the landfill. Food doesn't break down properly in the landfill, and even if it did, we couldn't get the soil out without all the plastic with it to turn it back into nutritious soil, which our soils desperately need. So, start composting. Also, another way you can avoid waste, maybe on an individual scale, but on a much more bigger scale, is to write to the brands that you currently use and tell them that you'd like to see them do better when it comes to their packaging. So for instance, I know frozen berries. I'm growing my own right now. I have blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. I feel like such a nerd, but when I'm not able to grow those myself, I am writing to the brands that I purchase from and asking them if they can come up with a way to get those to us without plastic packaging, right? There are so many different innovative ways to do it these days. I know the cost might be different, but compostable materials, using recycled materials, all sorts of different ways to make it more sustainable. And if you don't have another choice, asking the brands that you are currently giving your money to do something better, to be deserving of your money, is often a really great option. Or just talking to your farmer at the farmer's market. You know, sometimes things come in packaging at the farmer's market, asking them if you can do it without packaging, or asking them if they'll take their packaging back to reuse it. Or something as big as asking your grocery store to start a bulk section. Doesn't mean that on the first time you ask they're going to do it, but if you don't ask, they never will. The most important thing to remember here though is to do the best you can and to not feel guilty that you can't do more. We live in a society that limits us to the resources that are available to us. So never hold yourself accountable as the one who is being wasteful. We can only do as much as the community that we live in allows us to do. So always remember that and don't stress yourself out too much. I hope you learned a lot in today's video, but if you want to learn more, you can go head over to Skillshare. Like I said, they are a platform full of learning with over 30,000 courses of all different genres, whatever you want to learn about. So let's talk a little bit more about Skillshare. If somehow you don't already know what Skillshare is, it is an online learning platform with over 30,000 courses to choose from. Like I said, this month I'm personally taking a course all about cooking, specifically a mini class on knife skills. This class is by Alana Karp, head chef at Plated, and it's very simple, but also I feel like whenever I cut things in videos, you criticize me on how I'm doing it. So I'm trying to get better for me, but also for you. And Skillshare offers membership with meaning, so you can connect with the support of fellow creatives and an entire community of encouragement, communication, and inspiration. So whether you're looking to fend off boredom, focus on self-care through creativity, or join a similarly creative community, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning. The first 1,000 people to click the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, and after that, it's only around $10 a month. So check it out. The link is at the very top of the description. Thanks for watching, and remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.